The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Well, he's Todd.
Well, see, I gotta go see. She's Sandy.
Oh, yeah, okay, we're gonna flip it around. We've been drinking.
Not much.
Not yet.
She's Sandy, I'm Todd, and it's the Sandy and Toddcast. Today we're actually in a place that I never thought I would be again, and that is Washington Island in Door County, Wisconsin. And we're actually hanging out at a place called Nelson's Hall.
Yes.
That's not gunfire in the background.
I know, right?
I thought it was gunfire.
Something was going on. Yeah, and I'm very proud of you for going to Washington Island again.
Well,
good job.
I'm proud of you for doing the Bitters Challenge at Nelson's Hall.
I did it.
We came up here for the day. As you know, if you've been following the podcast, you know that we were planning on coming up here and coming up to Door County, but we were going to take the trip to Washington Island. We made it. I know my experience in coming to the island before. What's your experience like when you were coming across on the ferry?
It was interesting because you've told me the story, but you haven't really gone into details. So I didn't really know for sure when you would start feeling anything, if you would start feeling anything. And that's really a good thing because I wanted to know without any kind of bias what I was feeling. And we got on the ferry. And I hope everybody checked out our video that I made on in our group, Stay Weirdos.
On Madonna.
On Madonna. And we vogued quite a bit on the way over to the island. And once we got closer to the island, everything started to change. Started to shift a little bit. It wasn't as much, it was a little bit heavier. There was an energy shift that I could feel. And a lot of times, like I was telling you, I don't say anything right away because I let things sink in so I can think about them.
Yeah, it could be something else. It could be something that you had for lunch and it's bothering you a little bit. So
yeah, so it was really, really cool. Hi there.
No, we're good.
We're just.
We're good.
Thank you. And so I don't say anything right away.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you asked me about it, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely did feel a difference, a shift in the energy coming over.
So
here.
like just sitting here right now, I have the feeling that there's just something just to the side of us.
Yeah, there is.
Like across the street.
Yep. If you notice,
trees.
Everybody can't see me doing this, but Todd probably has noticed me gazing over there quite a bit. It feels like there's something like at the line of trees. Almost like over here on the other side of the road.
Just out of our field, right? Just out of our field.
Yeah.
And I keep getting that feeling. So that's how I felt a good majority of the time I was here last time. I didn't understand it back then because I wasn't quite as open or understanding about situation. But so that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. And it's like I feel okay.
Yeah,
but it's a little freaky. And I do have a little bit of this weird pressure on the back of my head and on the top. It's almost like if you go up in the mountains and you're not used to higher elevation, that's kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because if everybody followed us last season when Dave and I were out here visiting you and we went to Plainfield, Wisconsin, and we talked about how we get the same kind of feelings. You always get the pressure on your neck and I always get the pressure on my head.
Yep.
And we both got that pressure.
And that's what I'm feeling
And it's been a
right
constant
now.
on the island. And especially now at Nelson's.
Right.
So it's very interesting to me, the energy shifts. And I don't say the word shift very often, but it's very much apparent on this island that there are shifts of energy.
So for me, it's like almost a veil that comes down in front of my vision, and I actually have a hard time. I'm getting a lot of double vision on the island. So that's how I kind of talk about it. We stopped at a place that was part of Haunted State's first season, called the Island Dairy, which was a place that we investigated. And it was an old dairy here on the island that was very, very cool. And a business gentleman from Chicago who would visit the island all the time decided to buy it, renovate it, and he kind of made it into a lavender farm, and they had a gift shop, and it was a place where people could have weddings and all that kind of stuff. Wonderful location.
Yes, definitely.
And when we got there, very, very sad news to find out that it had closed down and was in disrepair, and it broke my heart, is basically what it did.
It just, it was something that I was really, truly looking forward to.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of background, the way Todd and I met is because Todd filmed a series.
I'm a TV star, basically.
He's a TV star on Amazon Prime called Haunted State. And we've made many references to it over the past couple of years. And you can check it out. And we decided, tongue-in-cheek, that we were going to do the Back to Haunted State tour this weekend because it was all filmed in Door County,
right,
Wisconsin. And so a lot of the stops that we're making in the next day or so, today and tomorrow, are going to be places that were featured on the episodes of Haunted State. So,
and to be honest, I was not, when we first agreed to do this, my thought process was we'd do every other location except Washington Island, and then you kind of talked me into it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're here, but I'm also glad we're not spending the night.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're not spending the, I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we're not spending the night. The cool thing is that there's a lot of different, cool in the fact that it's something that we don't experience very often.
Right.
That there's several different layers of energy on this island.
Yes.
There's the people who inhabit it and who have inhabited it. There's a land energy that's very strong. I think the primary energy here is residual land energy. But there's also a lot of intelligence.
Do you also, though, get like, it has something to do with the folks from the island?
Yes.
There's a weird, and the only way I can explain it is when I think about what the South was like in like the 30s and 40s, and people were living, in Mississippi and cotton picking, and just a very depressed, and you feel like you're defeated kind of feeling. I get that a lot here.
It's very solitary.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a special kind of person to survive living on an island. As modern as it may seem, in some ways, it's a very different lifestyle.
Right.
You were telling me the story about the lady who wanted to get flowers for her garden, and there was nowhere to get flowers for her garden here, so she had to take the ferry over, and she actually asked all her neighbors if they needed flowers because she made the trip over, and had to get the flowers on the mainland and then come back. And the other thing that was interesting was I asked you in the car on the way up, what do they do in the winter? And there's very few ferries, so it's very isolated. And what do we know about isolation? It can lead to loneliness and depression.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something that's necessarily prevalent, like you walk by somebody and realize, oh, they're depressed. It's just a natural quietness around.
Yeah.
It's not a laid back feeling, it's not a resorty feeling. It's actually more of a, I guess depressed is what you could say, but not in the, oh, I'm depressed way, just a, held down. I
was just gonna say like a pressure almost.
Yeah.
That's the feeling. And as we're sitting here, I'm actually I'm having issues of just feeling like watched, and we're outside actually, outside Nelson's right now, and you probably heard the waitress ask us if we needed anything and all that kind of stuff.
We thought we'd add a little ambiance to the whole thing.
So there are other people out here and stuff, but it's not them that I'm worried about actually seeing us. So we went to the dairy and it was closed, and that was very, very sad.
Yeah.
And then we went to...
But we did see this amazing Viking church.
Oh, yeah, which was on the property. And actually, if you go to the Haunted State Facebook page, there's still a preview video that has a great drone flyover of that church.
I remember seeing that.
And it's just incredible. And to see it sitting out there in this field of lavender, which is now overgrown with grass and weeds and stuff.
And I I thought I was going to get a sarcastic comment about going on closed property. And,
well, I was thinking about that because they had like, there's an added on area to the dairy now where they store like ambulances and stuff. And I'm like, somebody's going to come out here and Sandy's going to be walking the fields of lavender.
But I had a partner with me this time, so he came with me, so I knew it wasn't good. I wasn't going down by myself. But it was amazing. I took some pictures. Again, those are up in our group. If you'd like to join our group, it's Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast. And there's a lot of pictures. There's some video on there and stuff like that. And so that was really interesting to me because, so it's important to know that Todd and I have known each other for 2.5 years now. And that's how we met, because I watched the show, just randomly watched the show.
Right.
And we talked about this too, about how I don't think anything's a coincidence, and I think we were definitely meant to meet. And I reached out to him, and he thought I was a groupie and was mean to me.
I was not mean to you. Can we get over that whole thing?
I'm just teasing you. And so we just became like brother and sister.
BFFs.
And BFFs. And so I only watched that show 2.5 years ago. I haven't really watched that show since then.
You have to watch it again now that we're going to be going to locations.
Now I will.
We stopped at Shipwreck earlier.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
That was on the show.
Yep.
And tell them what happened. Tell everybody what happened when we were there.
So one of the things that, and I don't want to give too much away from the TV show,
because you got to watch it.
Producer would come after me and sue me for libel or something. But there was a portion of the restaurant upstairs that we had some activity at, and I didn't tell Sandy what had happened.
Cool.
I gave her some generalities, but she goes, but it feels like it's all back in this area. And it was exactly the area where everything kind of took place. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting.
That was very neat, very neat. And I had been, a lot of these places, that's why we're calling it the Back to Haunted State Tour 2022, because we are visiting a lot of these places. And the cool thing about it is I don't remember a lot about it because of the fact that I haven't watched it in 2.5 years, and I can't remember what I had for dinner yesterday.
One of the places we stopped at as tourists when we were filming was a little, I want to call it a church, but it's more like a temple, and I can't remember the name of it necessarily, but it is like Viking, right? It's kind of
it's Viking.
And we'll have some stuff in the show notes where we just had some drinks, and so we're not necessarily thinking straight. But we stopped there as tourists, and we did film a little bit there. But there were other people around, so we did investigate it. And I don't think it was ever part of the plan to investigate.
No,
it was planned to be part of the B-roll that you do for TV shows of the group going out and having fun together and hanging out. And, but I remember the first time we went in there. And again, this is kind of before I really understood my empath path in life, and just thinking, there's something weird here. Something just seems off. And I'm not very good at expressing what I feel or what I think when it comes to that kind of stuff sometimes. So when we went today, I walked in before everybody else. You guys kind of stayed out. And as soon as I walked in, I'm like, oh, God.
Right.
Like I felt it.
And we had no idea. I had no idea what was going on with you.
So I'm in the church, and you guys are going to come in. My first thought was, I'm going to scare the shit out of them when they walk into church. But of course, I was already sitting in there, kind of feeling what I was experiencing in the church, which again was a heaviness. I don't know if it was a sadness or an upset feeling, but you and I and Dave and Jason went in, and we ran out to the car. I'm like, we got to get some equipment in here, right?
Yeah,
because there was nobody else around. We were the only ones there. And so you brought in a recorder, and I brought in a K2 meter and a EDI or EDM or whatever the hell it's called. And at first I thought, well, nothing's going to happen, right?
I had no expectations, because so when I first walked in, immediately felt something really strange, and I looked. I know you saw I looked really strange, and I did because
which is nothing new. She looked like she had gas,
which I did earlier today.
Right.
So, but that's a whole other story. So, so I immediately felt something, but then all of a sudden I was drawn to it's hard to explain, and I have pictures of the inside of the church that you can see, but it's sort of like two level. It's one level. But it's two levels. There's almost like a railing that goes around the top of it.
For no reason.
For no reason.
It's a weird railing, right?
Yeah. It's like a railing that doesn't exist. but it exists. It's so strange. So I was immediately drawn to that, and I felt this energy shift. So basically it was like if you could picture almost like a child running around the outside. It wasn't a child, but
Right.
that's the feeling I got of a small energy shift moving around the outside of this railing, like from back to front. And it primarily was on one side of the church.
So when you walk in, was it on the left back
Left side,
Yeah,
left
okay.
to back,
Yeah,
left to back,
right.
left to back.
And ironically, as we're doing the investigation, we were getting tons of noise from that section
From
of
that
the church.
side.
Yeah.
And so we threw the K2 meter down, and you guys all know that we talk about kindred spirits and how we agree with a lot of their methods. And so we've learned to adapt ourselves to a lot of their methods. And so what we did was went in with a lot of respect and didn't hound. We actually were very respectful and asked questions and explained that we wanted to understand who was with us. And we were getting K2 hits like crazy.
It didn't start off that way. It started very quiet.
No, it was very quiet.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, there's a little bit, right? And then
Yep.
you think, well, maybe it's atmospheric. Because
Right?
that can happen,
It
right?
can happen.
And then it got pretty prevalent. And then we had another reading on the other instrument that showed that there was temperature and pressure change.
Yes, which is
at the same
interesting
time.
because temperature it was the EDI, and temperature can fluctuate. So I was keeping my eye on the temperature, but it was only going down by 1/10, up by 1/10.
Right. So when the temperature gauge actually goes off, it means there was a specific or a very significant
Noticeable
temperature.
change.
Right. And the fact that the temperature and the pressure went off at the same time
That was
interesting.
significant.
And it wasn't that long after we got that really big K2 meter hit as
Yes,
well.
we were getting a lot of, and it seemed very intelligent because there were questions we'd ask with no response.
Yep.
There were questions we'd ask with a response, and it was very
some
interesting.
response that was just through the roof.
Yes.
I think it enjoyed communicating with you. Because sometimes when I would ask a question or one of the other guys would ask a question, it kind of died off for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
or we'd get simple responses, but it definitely seemed to respond very well to you. And
I think that a lot of times energies sense who can see and hear them, and
Yeah,
they get a little
probably.
more drawn to them. I've had that happen several times on investigations where I think they are drawn to the people they know that not necessarily can help them, but can understand that they're there.
So I don't want to
more.
give any conclusions of what we think
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form at this point, because we do have audio that we should listen to as
Yeah,
well.
and we have to think about it.
Yep, and we do have some video. Dave, pulled out a camera and
Yep.
got some video and stuff. So I do want to discuss that, but I want to say that you and I have only really investigated twice. Once was at Ed Gein's grave where the big dance took place.
The big dance.
I call it our
The
prom.
dance performance.
Our prom, because we're dancing on what's her name's grave?
Augustus.
Augustus
Augustus'
Gein's grave,
grave.
for Christ's sakes. But I thought our investigation, while it was short, maybe it was 10 minutes, right? Today was just so nice.
Because we know each other so well.
It went so well.
It was perfect. Our styles are completely in sync, and we know each other so well. There's something to be said for trust and respect between the people.
No
No problem. There's something to be said for that trust and respect.
Yeah.
And belief in each other, just as much as belief in what you're doing.
Right.
And so I think that was really important, and that just makes me think, wow, when you come out to
Yeah,
visit
yeah.
and we do an investigation, how amazing is that
It's
going
a
to be?
shame that we can't investigate more often, because
I
I
know.
think we'd have a great time.
We would.
So we're sitting at Nelson Hall right now, which is
Yeah.
also part of season 1 of Haunted State.
You guys got to check it out, definitely.
And so one of the things here is the Bitters Club, okay? So, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this, but so the guy that owned Nelson's Hall, Tom Nelson, back in the time of Prohibition, decided he still wanted to sell liquor in Wisconsin, and so what he did was he got a medical license, and he was able to sell medicinal bitters. So people would go and go, I got an ache, and then they'd get drunk in the afternoon on bitters.
I think it was ingenious.
Oh my God,
it was
unbelievable.
ingenious. It's the longest running bar in the state of Wisconsin
Correct.
because of the ingenious thoughts of this owner.
Right. So when we investigated here, and again, I can't give a lot away because, again, Michael Brown would shoot me.
Shout out to Michael.
Shout out to Michael. But, we got some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
This was the first time I heard a disembodied voice with my ears and not just through
Right.
equipment.
And there's nothing like that.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
I've heard it several times. There's nothing in the world like that experience.
So today we're here, and of course I have a Spotted Cow beer, and so has a Jack and Coke, and somebody gets a Diet Coke. At any rate, Sandy has to become part of the Bitters Club, because if you come here, you do a shot of bitters, you get a little card with your name on it, and you put your fingerprint on it. It's like this big thing. And I was looking at the book. Several people came through here today to do the Bitters Club. You're not the only one.
Yeah, it's popular.
So she did the Bitters Club, and her response in the book, you're supposed to sign this little book. And what did you say?
I handled it just fine.
She did. But
I did.
What was your response on the bitters shot?
It was, I thought it was good. It was interesting because I had no idea what to. And of course, in the show, your famous comment was, it looks like blood.
It kind of does look like dark blood.
It really does, right? So we all got a kick out of that. So I just wanted to do it. And I never thought I would, of course, because who thought I would end up on Washington Island, especially knowing that you were uncomfortable with it, which I thank you for that, because, and we are having a great time. It's, I think we've gotten to the point where now you understand it better, so you're more knowledgeable about what to expect
and
what it is.
I wouldn't stick around for very long.
No.
We'll be heading back.
We'll be heading back soon. This is probably our last stop. But anyways, I've always wanted to do it. Since I saw it on the show, I thought, what a cool thing to have. So I actually got my bitters card. And what they do is they give you the shot and they give you the card to fill out. And you have to put your name and the date. And then you take your shot of bitters. And it's very clovey. I have never had bitters. It's very cinnamony and clovey together. And it is medicinal, I have to say. It tastes medicinal. Like, it tastes like something an old cough syrup would have been.
Sure.
And which is probably one of the uses back then for it. And but I did fine with it. And I've drank a lot of whiskey shots in my life, and so it wasn't really, I can handle strong whiskey, and I handled it just fine. However, the other participant sitting a couple down from me didn't have as good of a time with that. Had a little issue with it, which kind of made me chuckle. But I did. I got my card, and then what you do is you dip your thumb in what's left over in the shot glass of the bitters, and you put your thumb on there and make a thumbprint with the bitters. And then you get the card, and then you get to sign the book.
Which is great. And somebody asked me if I still have my card from 2018.
Well, I know you're old, but...
And I said, well, I had it until I cleaned out my car and threw it away. So, I mean, I'm just not sentimental about anything in life. But
we'll share all of these pictures. We really are having an amazing time. We had a great time driving up. We stopped in a couple of little shops on the way. We stopped in the cheese factory, which was amazing. I could have spent all day there. And we just had a ball so far. And we still have an entire day. We got to go to dinner. And then we still have an entire day to spend in Door County. And we'll be making more haunted state stops along the way.
What do you got? We're going to the lighthouse.
Yes.
Is that pretty much it? The rest is going to be shopping? Or what else is there?
Probably. We're going to hit some wineries. Yeah. And a couple distilleries, probably.
Oh, yeah, the Door County.
Yeah, Door County. And a couple distilleries we'll do. We're going to play it by ear and just have some fun with it. But lots of pictures to be found in the group. Yeah. So make sure you guys join the group. And we're just ready to have fun with it and everything. And there'll be all the instructions at the end of this episode on how to join our group and where to look for us.
Well, we'll do that. Should we do that right now?
You can find the Sandy and Toddcast on any of the platforms that you normally find your podcasts, including YouTube and Twitter. Be sure to like the Sandy and Toddcast on Facebook to keep up on the latest goings-on, including each week's episode. You can also join our group, Stay Weirdos, friends of the Sandy and Toddcast, for more fun. Stay Weirdos is a safe place to share your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and random inappropriate memes without judgment. Sandy and Todd also have a podcast called The Empathicary Podcast. It's for empaths, by empaths. And if you know an empath, you might want to listen too. Find and like the page on Facebook. And finally, if you're thinking about starting your own podcast and just aren't sure where to start, Sandy and Todd can also help with that too. Mindgarden Media is their latest project where the dynamic duo can guide you every step of the way in your podcasting journey. Editing, producing and consulting is what they do. Like Mindgarden Media on Facebook or email them at themindgardenmedia@gmail.com. And as always, thanks for staying weird.
So what do you think? Should we go finish our drinks and then we'll get the heck out of Dodge? Oh, how now? That's usually my job.
That is a spotty cow belch.
And watch for progressively drunk Todd pictures tonight and tomorrow as we go.
All right.
We're having a ball. Thank
right,
you guys for
time.
everything. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.